Hi, it's time for another math easy solution. To discuss further into the Pope Paul VI or 6 audience hall. And if you recall, I did an earlier video a while back on the audience hall, and now I'm going to go further into it because the rabbit hole has no end. So I'm going to look at the Fazzini resurrection sculpture, plus the Vatican obelisk, plus the some occult stuff, plus much more. So yeah, buckle up. This is going to be pretty intense. So again, note as always, if you don't have time to watch this whole video, you could follow these little tips, and the main one I always promote: watch this video at a faster speed. I believe YouTube desktop mode is the only one that they've known, but everywhere else should update theirs ASAP, and it's like downloading knowledge into your brain. Anyways, so note, before I get into this, my use of the government-controlled Wikipedia, because I'll be referencing that a lot in this pretty extensive video, and it's usually just to give the mainstream version of events and or basic non-controversial facts such as names and dates of places and people. But if you find anything even in these quote basic facts that are questionable, please let me know, as it could make for another video. Another I want to make another public safety announcement. So important warning: this video takes a glimpse into what reality may actually be. So if you want your perception of reality to remain the same, please don't watch the video and instead stick to the mainstream or mainstream alternative media or science or whatever you're up to. But if you think you're ready, then hashtag buckle up. So now let's look at the topics to cover in this video. So topics to cover are: important note on quote speculation. Then I'm going to recap my earlier audience hall Vatican snake bite video. Now I'm going to go over Nervi's other works. He's the guy behind the audience hall. Then I'm going to show you some more Vatican snake symbolism ? Then I'm going to look into the Vatican's Egyptian obelisk at St. Peter's Square. And then I'm going to go over the resurrection sculpture, and then do some mirroring and symbology work that I went over, and then to reveal some absolutely fascinating stuff. And then part 8, Baphomet, like always, just makes an appearance, plus George Washington and Zeus. What do they all have in common? Then I'm going to go over briefly about the United Nations and Bohemian Grove, and then Fazzini's other works. He's the one behind the Jesus resurrection sculpture. Then I'm going to go over summary conclusions, and then some of my quote speculation work, trying to make sense of all of this. And I'm going to look at the occult, Virgin Mobile, the company, Barack Obama, Superman, the Sistine Chapel, Michelangelo, Time Magazine, Freemasons, the letter G, and genetic manipulation. Hashtag speculation. So there's a lot of info at the end, but it's pretty mind-blowing, or at least mind-expanding, in my opinion. So now let's just buckle up and just go into this further. So important note on quote speculation. Here at Math Easy Solutions, I try to keep all speculation to a bare minimum and focus strictly on facts and verifying as closely as possible that these are indeed facts. And again, this is because speculation of any kind is bound to be way off, even if the smallest assumption is in fact wrong. So you can't just assume stuff, and that's pretty much my philosophy on everything. So now let's just jump right in. So recap my earlier audience hall Vatican snake bite video. So recall from my earlier video in which I went over the Pope VI audience hall, and here it is. And there's inside of it, there's people, there's a orchestra, and there is that Jesus sculpture, which in my opinion, looks like a final boss of a video game. And now, so you can make sure go ahead and watch that if you haven't already. So recall that the mouth part of the Paul VI audience hall is located in Vatican City, and the rest of the building is in Rome, Italy. And remember, Vatican City is a city-state or a country or city-country. It's the smallest country by I believe population and size. So this Paul VI audience hall, it was designed by Italian architect Pier Luigi Nervi and completed in 1971. And the audience hall looks like a giant snake head from both inside and outside. So here's the outside, there's the mouth, and remember, only the mouth part is in Vatican City. So this is in Vatican City, and this is in Rome right here. Very, very interesting. So yeah, that's Rome. There's Vatican City. Absolutely fascinating, right in the mouth. And look, it looks like a giant snake there. There's the eyes, and also there's the scales on the outside. Fascinating, fascinating. Just the overhead one, so it's not even a rectangle, curves in towards it like that. There's the slit-like eyes. Fascinating. Here's the inside. There's the fangs. There's the mouth part. Inside is curved in. I don't know what is going on here. And this is St. Peter's Square in there with that obelisk on this side, and there is the St. Peter's Basilica. And again, there's the mouth cuts in. It's like as if it's biting it. Unbelievable. So you Photoshop that in there, yeah, it's pretty much it. And also note that the flag of Vatican City had the keys like that and the crown. Very interesting stuff there. And here is the map of it. Note the audience hall's mouth is the only part actually in Vatican City, so you have it like this, but the rest of it is still owned by the Holy See, which owns other buildings in Rome and maybe elsewhere, but I believe it's just in Rome. But the actual location of Vatican City, it cuts through the mouth. Quite fascinating stuff there. And there's St. Peter's Square like that. And then now here's St. Peter holding the keys. So Peter with the famous biblical keys to heaven, as I went over in that earlier video. And now if you look at the overhead view from Google Maps or whatnot, or Bing, so you have it like this. It cuts through. And also what you notice this giant key there with the castle there, very similar to St. Peter's keys like this one there. That kind of like looks like a castle type at the top there. And notice how it looks like a key going into the Vatican City, symbolizing that the Pope was given was given the keys to heaven, and the St. Peter was the first Pope according to Catholic doctrine. And then there it is. If you Photoshop the snake, it's pretty much biting it. And again, I want to make a note that Google Maps wrongly highlights Vatican City around the audience hall, but Bing Maps correctly has it cut through the mouth of the audience hall. Hashtag interesting, and possibly Google is trying to cover up or hide the fact that a giant snake-like building is actually biting into the Vatican City. Unreal. So that's some very interesting stuff for you to ponder. Now here is Pericle Fazzini with a model of the sculpture, but it is not identical to the finished project. I believe the finished project was slightly different than this model. There has some other extra wings there in the finished one. And there is Fazzini. And again, all sources for these photos are in my earlier videos, so make sure to check that out. So now let's look at Nervi's other works. So now to get a better idea, behind the true meaning of the audience hall and why it's a giant snake's head, let's take a look at Nervi's other works and recall from Wikipedia if you read this through. So Pierluigi Nervi from 1891 to 1979 was an Italian engineer architect. He studied at the University of Bologna, graduating in 1913. Dr. Nervi taught as a professor of engineering at Rome University from 1946 to 1961 and is known worldwide as a structural engineer architect and for innovative use of reinforced concrete. So there he is. And there's his credentials, some awards. This guy has, he's very, very well noted and has done many, many works. And here's a bunch of these ones here. And the ones that I went over that I found very fascinating were all these ones here that I've bolded. Like that is in the George Washington Bridge bus station. And George Washington makes several appearances in this video. There is that. And George Washington, remember, he's the first president of the United States. And there's the Paul VI Audience Hall in Vatican City. So Nervi definitely has a big resume. So now let's take a look at some particularly interesting designs, in particular these ones that I highlighted above, as well as this other one, Cursal Bath in Ostia, Italy, which wasn't mentioned in Wikipedia. So we have these ones, and most of them I just went on DuckDuckGo, searched for that, and this one's Polomatica. That is actually, that's this one. I believe the name changed. Palazzo del Sport Euro EUR. So here's some photos from it. So this one I believe is a sports stadium, and it sure does, in my view, look like an alien or a spaceship or a flying saucer or a UFO. You have the circular one like that, and then from overhead, again you have that similar roof one as in the Nervi Hall. Then you have this part like this, and I believe it does it does look like a spaceship there. And let's go further. It has some of these designs. If you look closer, it does actually look like one. So let's just keep going. And then has look a giant center piece like that. And this one is very fascinating over there. So here I've got a couple ones that are pretty big. So in my view, this does look like a UFO or flying disc. Very, very fascinating. So it definitely looks like a flying saucer UFO. Hashtag very interesting. So let's look at the other one that I had listed above, the Palazzo dello Sport, and then put Nervi in there. Another spaceship type 1 where you have these light beaming from the top and it's all circular like that. Again, similar roof to the Nervi Hall. So yeah, very fascinating. Some construction photos there. And then this other one that was all part of the search there. This one's very fascinating. This is, I believe it was part of a PowerPoint presentation or a PDF. So a note here looks like people holding a tent or roof together. Those look like hands or people. That's very fascinating design there. It does look like a flying saucer. Here's the plan drawings. It does look like a flying saucer. Another sports complex. I got that same UFO design. Very fascinating. Here's another one, Norfolk Scope, and this is again by Nervi. So if you go through these ones, definitely looks like a UFO. It has that similar columns on the outside with the splits into two, like the ones that it looks like it's carrying people. So it uses that same one. Initially I thought it was a human chromosome one, but I have to look further into that. And it was very fascinating. So it does kind of look like a UFO there. If you look at it at nighttime, it does. They got the lights on the side. So yes, I want my spaceship. So here's another one I just found really fascinating. This is a Cathedral of St. Mary of the Assumption, Nervi. I believe the Assumption is the Catholic doctrine that Mary was assumed to go to heaven. Because I believe they're recorded, her death wasn't recorded or whatnot. I'll have to double check that. So this is a pretty fascinating design sculpture. There's a giant cross like this on the inside and outside. I just found it very fascinating. And now you have the top like this. And yeah, just very fascinating. Here's on the outside there. Apparently I believe that's Jesus. Those are doves and so on. Very interesting depiction of it. So this was just a very unique architecture by Nervi. Hashtag amazing. Now another one, George Washington Bridge Bus Station, Nervi. This one is again very fascinating. Has these scale-like or triangle-like roof across pointing towards this. I haven't been able to decode this, but it just looks very, very cool and interesting. That's the George Washington. So Nervi definitely has unique taste. And one more of his design I want to go is this trampoline at this pool or bath place. Here's a good video that goes over it. This is a Pierluigi Nervi Cursal bath in Italy. So yeah, this one's very interesting. Look at that. Has that again, that same column structure here, but now it's a duplicate or mirrored across there. Very, very interesting. So Nervi's designs always leave something to think about, because if you're going on a diving board in a pool and this is a cool shape like that, very interesting. That a double helix or something, and I'll explain why I'm talking about genetic information later on in this video. So now let's look further. So more Vatican snake symbolism. So after looking at St. Peter's Square more closely, it does in fact look like a giant snake's head as well. Here is the map of Vatican City. Remember, there's the audience hall biting into it. But now look at this. This has the eyes there. This is St. Peter's Square, and this one could be viewed as the tongue. The cross of St. Peter's Basilica can be viewed as the tongue of a snake. And look at, there's the mouth there, there's the head, and there's the eyes. So yeah, by itself I wouldn't think that much of that. But then when you account for the audience hall, Pope Paul VI audience hall biting into Vatican, yeah, I don't know anymore. This may look, in fact, like a snake. And there's the extends it out, so it could be a snake, could be a key, could symbolize both. So here's close-up of it like this, and then again this could be viewed as a mouth, and there's the eyes or the fountains at the St. Peter's Basilica. So yeah, notice how the water fountains appear as eyes, and the cross extending from the square appears as a tongue of a snake. Hashtag mind blown. Here's a snake that I looked at to see if I can do some just rearranging, and then as you can see, seriously, who is designing this architecture? Yeah, the snake sticking, the tongue sticking out, there's the eyes. And this is why I don't watch movies anymore. Hashtag you can't script this stuff. To me, that looks uncanny. So now let's look further into the fountains of St. Peter's Square, just for some brief history lesson here. So the fountains of St. Peter's Square are two fountains in St. Peter's Square in Vatican City, created by Carlo Maderno, 1612-1614, and Giano Lorenzo Berni, 1667 to 1677, to ornate the square in front of St. Peter's Basilica. The older fountain by Maderno is on the north side of the square. And then look how they look alike. Like, that's very fascinating. So the Maderno fountain on the north side of the square is located on the site of an earlier fountain built in 1490 during the time of Pope Innocent VIII. I believe that's 8. And now look, there's Fountain of St. Peter's Square by Carlo Maderno. This one's there. I believe that's the north one, if I read correctly. Yeah, the Maderno fountain on the north side. And the south one, well, here's a nighttime view of it. Very fascinating. So yeah, the eyes of the snake will appear more clearly. So Fountain of St. Peter's Square by Carlo Maderno. So for half a century, the square was decorated with the Maderno fountain with the obelisk raised by Pope Sixtus V, but the southern part of the square remained empty. Yeah, so very interesting. It only had one, and then it was missing the other one. In 1667, Pope Clement X commissioned Gian Lorenzo Berni to build a second fountain, which closely followed the design of the Maderno fountain. The Berni fountain was completed in 1677. Yeah, like that. So yeah, very, very interesting architecture. And is that yeah, those are two fish intertwined, I believe. Very interesting. So Fountain of St. Peter's Square by Giano Lorenzo Berni. So now if you go to a different view on the map there, you have it like this, and there is the audience hall there in St. Peter's Basilica. Just wanted to point out this part there. There's the obelisk. So here's another close-up one. There's a link to it on Google Maps. And there it is. There's an obelisk with a cross on top. So notice the obelisk with a cross on top at the center of St. Peter's Square. Hashtag very interesting. So notice the obelisk indeed. So we go to St. Peter's Square on Wikipedia. So St. Peter's Square is a large plaza located directly in front of St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican City, the Papal Enclave inside Rome, directly west of the neighborhood or Rione of Borgo. Both the square and the basilica are named after St. Peter, an apostle of Jesus and the first Catholic Pope. At the center of the square is an ancient Egyptian obelisk erected at the current site in 1586. And there's there's the location. It looks like an eye there when you pinpoint it like that. So Giano Lorenzo Berni designed the square almost 100 years ago, including the massive Tuscan colonnades. Yeah, I mean 100 years later from the movement of the obelisk. So it was moved to the center of the square, and then 100 years later was actually fully designed the square by Giano Berni, and including the massive Tuscan colonnades. These are pillars or whatnot. So 4 columns deep, which embrace visitors in the maternal arms of Mother Church. Very interesting. A granite fountain constructed by Berni in 1675, or Bernini, in 1675, matches another fountain designed by Carlo Maderno in 1613. Going further, yeah, look like there's the map there. So St. Peter's Square within Vatican City. MAS note that plaza looks like a giant eye with the obelisk at the center. Hashtag very interesting to get that oval eye like that. Eye symbolism appears a lot for some reason. So also note that this Vatican City outline earnestly doesn't cut through the, quote, mouth of the audience hall. Hashtag attention to detail. Always attention to detail. So I believe it should be cutting it somewhere over there. Like that. That's where it should be cutting and not around it. Anyways, I digress. Let's keep moving. So Bernini made the fountain appear to be one of the foci of the Ovado Tondo, embraced by his colonnades, and eventually matched it on the other side in 1675, just 5 years before his death. And MUS note, I believe an Ovado Tondo is an oval. All right, here, an oval formed by 2 circles, centers of which are the foci question. I'm not 1,000% sure because I wasn't able to find any much documentation. So here it is like this. So you have 2 circles like that. The centers of them are the foci there and there. quite fascinating. There's a very interesting design like that as well. So there's St. Peter's Square, Ovado Tondo, like that, forms an oval. So I'll have to confirm this later since I couldn't find much documentation online about Ovado Tondos, maybe just a different translation. Hashtag stay tuned, might do a math easy solutions on that. Yeah, so now let's get to the obelisk of the Wikipedia page. So at the center of the Ovado Tondo stands an uninscribed Egyptian obelisk of red granite, 25.5 meters tall, supported on bronze lions and surmounted by the Shigi arms in bronze, and all 41 meters to the cross on its top. Wow, fascinating. So the obelisk was originally erected on Heliopolis, Egypt, by an unknown pharaoh. So why isn't a Egyptian pharaoh's obelisk right at the Vatican? So the Emperor Augustus, 63 BC to 14 AD, had the obelisk moved to the Julian Forum of Alexandria, also in Egypt, where it stood until 37 AD, when Caligula ordered the forum demolished and the obelisk transferred to Rome. He had it placed on the spina, which ran along the center of the circus of Nero, where it would preside over Nero's countless brutal games and Christian executions. Well, in my opinion, that's not a building or object that you want to be highlighting in your square or your city. I would get that demolished, in my opinion, or just keep that in a museum. So Ammius note, Augustus is the first Roman emperor. Alexandria is in Egypt. Caligula was the third Roman emperor. Very fascinating. So it was moved to its current site in 1586 by the engineer-architect Domenico Fontana under the direction of Pope Sixtus V. The engineering feat of re-erecting its vast weight was memorialized in a suite of engravings. The Vatican obelisk is the only obelisk in Rome that has not toppled since ancient Roman times. During the Middle Ages, the gilt ball on top of the obelisk, and gilt is gold covered with like thin gold or paint or gold leaf, as I'll explain later here, as well as the clarifying these or just showing the sources for these statements I made there. Yeah, so originally it had a gilt ball or gold covered ball on top of the obelisk, and it was believed to contain the ashes of Julius Caesar. Fontana later removed the ancient metal ball, now in a Rome museum, that stood atop that obelisk, and found only dust. Christopher Hibbert, page 178 of his book, writes that the ball was found to be solid, though Bernini had no influence. He had no influence in the erection of the obelisk. He did use it as the centerpiece of his magnificent piazza or plaza or square. I believe that's different, or that's Italian or for it as well. So he added the Chigi arms to the top in honor of his patron Alexander VII. And yeah, now later on in that Wikipedia page, it mentions the spina again, but now it states the median with buildings which divided the two roads of Borga Vecchio and Borga Nuovo. I believe that's just terms for the circus. And again, going back to the spina, remember the spina is here where the Emperor Caligula moved the obelisk from Egypt to Rome and placed it on the spina, or basically just a median with buildings which divide two roads, and I'll show you that in a bit. So now first go over Augustus right here. So Augustus, born 63 BC until 14 AD, was the founder of the Roman Principate, and considered the first Roman emperor, controlling the Roman Empire from 27 BC until his death in AD 14. And there is Augustus like that. And there's a little kid there. So the statue, known as the Augustus of Prima Porta, first Roman emperor, and his predecessors considered Julius Caesar, which was a dictator, and great uncle, adoptive father, very interesting, successor to Tiberius. And yeah, so now moving on to Caligula, just for reference. So Caligula, properly Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, and he was born AD 12 and died in 41 AD, and was Roman emperor from 37 to 41 AD. That's about 4 or 5 years, or 4 years, or 3 years. Depends how you look at it, so I'll just say 4 years. So and here's a reconstructed bust of the emperor known as Caligula, like that. Very, very interesting. And I don't know what this face is over there. So anyways, that's the third Roman emperor of the Roman Empire. Yeah, so here 3 years, 10 months is his reign, and then predecessor Tiberius, great uncle, an adoptive grandfather, and his successor Claudius, an uncle. Now moving forward, so Alexandria, that is where the obelisk was moved after its original location, and it's also in Egypt. So Alexandria, going on, is the second largest city and a major economic center in Egypt, extending about 32 kilometers along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea in the north-central part of the country. Its low elevation on the Nile Delta makes it highly vulnerable to rising sea levels. Alexandria is an important industrial center because of its natural gas and oil pipelines from Zeus, I believe. Alexandria is also an important tourist destination, and it was founded around a small ancient Egyptian town, 331 BC, by Alexander the Great. There's the coat of arms there. Yeah, quite interesting there. And there's location, also known as Mediterranean's Bride or Pearl of the Mediterranean. There is the location of it there in Egypt. So yeah, founded by Alexander the Great. Very interesting. And here's wordnik.com, just shows a definition of guild. So past tense and past participle of guild, covered with gold or gild, or you go here, a thin layer of gold or something simulating gold that is applied in gilding. Very, very interesting. Or slang money. Now going further into the Shigi family, which is the Shigi arms were on the obelisk on top, and that was placed by Bernini. So the Shigi family is a Roman princely family of Sinese extraction, descended from the counts of Arden Gaisca, which possessed castles in the Maremma, southern Tuscany. The earliest authentic mention of them is in the 13th century with one Almano, a counselor of the Republic of Siena. And there's a Shigi family, Rovere family, the black noble family. I believe they just have their own family symbol like this. There's the pillars, and there is a star there. So Micat invertis is their motto, or it shines on the top. And country Italy, and going further right here, and you're gonna go and look at it like that, founded in 1492. Yeah, I'm not sure how this all works. So anyways, so the first prominent member was Marino, a banker and 2 times ambassador of the Siena to the popes, Alexander VI and Julius II. He founded the Roman branch of the family. The other branch was started by his brother Benedetto, and Cardinal Fabio Chigi, on being elected pope as Alexander VII, which is the Bernini was the one who placed it. Yeah, I believe that was Bernini who placed that Shigi of arms because of his patron, Alexander VII. Let me just scroll back up to double check right here. Yeah, so there's Bernini, and he added this Shigi arms to the top in honor of his patron, Alexander VII, which is part of this Shigi family. Quite fascinating stuff right there. So yeah, as on being elected pope as Alexander VI at the conclave of 1655, conferred the Roman particiate on his family or nobility onto the family. Quite interesting. And there is the obelisk right here, and there's a star there with a cross. And let's just zoom in. There's another St. Peter's Basilica.info, shows a close-up, and there is those pillars right there, and there's the star, and there is the cross on top. Not sure what these mean there, but let me know if there's anything quite interesting. So you definitely can see the Shigi arms or star on top of the Vatican obelisk and below the cross. So now let's look at that Circus of Nero I mentioned earlier. So the Circus of Nero, or Circus of Caligula, was a circus in ancient Rome located mostly in the present-day Vatican City. And there is the original obelisk that was moved over to this spot in Rome. And there is the spina, or the building that form a median between 2 roads or paths, like that. Quite fascinating. So drawing of the Circus of Nero, 1699, and there's the chariot horses and horses fighting each other. And they also did Christian executions, I believe. That's what Wikipedia stated. And now here's an early interpretation of the relative locations of the circus and the medieval and current basilicas of St. Peter. Modern interpretations differ. See plan, and there's another one there. I'll go over that as well. So apparently, yeah. So this was when it was moved to Rome. This was placed here. This is one interpretation of it, and there is the spina at the center, and you have the two roads across like that, where there's chariot races and other stuff going on. And then the old basilica, there was an older one, and that's in this black one like that. So the location is separated like that, but the new one is around, and you can see by the cross type shape there, that's curved like that. And so it's a bit extends past it like that over there. So locations and dimensions. The accompanying plan shows an early interpretation of the relative locations of the circus and the medieval and current basilicas of St. Peter. The plan also suggests the dimensions of the circus relative to the basilicas. A more modern interpretation differs in various respects. It maintains the central obelisk in the same position relative to the basilicas as in the accompanying plan, but rotates the entire circus about the obelisk in a clockwise direction about 170 degrees, so that the starting gates of the circus are not towards the east and closer to the center of Rome. So yeah, there's some debate as to which one is the correct circus dimensions. So the more modern interpretation also shows the circus being much longer relative to its width as compared to the early interpretation. And but one again note that the obelisk location was still there, they just changed it, and I'll show you that image soon. So in both interpretations, the circus building centered on the obelisk is aligned on a similar east-west line to that of the basilicas and lies in the south of the axis of the current basilica to the left. As you look at the western front from the piazza or plaza, the major differences are the relocation of the starting gates to the eastern end and the change in proportions of the circus itself. And I'll just show you that image. So the modern interpretation is shown here, but the quality of the image is a bit blurry, so those links that it shows, like this one outline, it's shown here, but it is blurry. So note that the site stpetersbasilica.org is no longer available. That's why they have the archive. But I believe it was moved to stpetersbasilica.info, which I actually used above for the Shigi arms photo. So I found the same photo, but with better image quality here at stpetersbasilica.info. And you can see it right here. Here's the old position of the obelisk right there. But notice how the circus is bigger now, and it's moved across this way like that, and it's shifted. But that location is still there, and there's the Pope VI audience hall there, where the mouth is inside the Vatican City and it's biting it. So notice the position of the notice the position is just north of the Pope VI audience hall. Initially, I thought it was the same location, and that's when I was a bit shocked. But yeah, but it's actually different. So it's in between the basilica, and there it is, like that. That was the old one, and now as you can see, it's moved over to here. There, after it was demolished, I believe, by Caligula. Yeah, so Augustus moved it here, and Caligula destroyed all this and moved it over there. Very, very interesting. Yeah, so now let's look at list of obelisks in Rome. It goes over it as well on this page. So the city of Rome harbors the most obelisks in the world. Wow. There are 8 ancient Egyptian and 5 ancient Roman obelisks in Rome, together with a number of more modern obelisks. There was also, until 2005, an ancient Ethiopian obelisk in Rome. Quite fascinating. So the Romans used special heavy cargo carriers called obelisk ships to transport the monuments down the Nile to Alexandria, and from there across the Mediterranean Sea to Rome. On-site, large Roman cranes were employed to erect the monoliths. Ancient Egyptian obelisks, it's right here. So at least 8 obelisks created in antiquity by the Egyptians were taken from Egypt after the Roman conquest and brought to Rome. Very fascinating. And here it is right here, the Vatican obelisk, Vaticano, St. Peter's Square, and it's 25.5 meters tall. Yeah, I believe that was the height. I'll have to double check, or it's 41, not sure. Numbers there. Yeah, so here I quickly pause the video and just double check. So the MES note, the 41 meters labeled here includes the base, and the 25 I believe would just be from there to there, or somewhere from there. And then the other part makes up for the 41. So that's very, very interesting. So originally raised in the Forum Iulian, or Forum Liliu in Alexandria by the prefect Cornelius Gallus on Augustus' orders around 30 to 28 BC. No hieroglyphs. Interesting note there. I don't know why it's written like that. So brought to Rome by Caligula in 40 for the spina. I believe that's 40 AD. For the spina of the Vatican circus. So that was the emperor there, and relocated by Pope Sixtus V in 1586 using a method devised by Domenico Fontana, the first monumental obelisk raised in the modern period. It is the only obelisk in Rome that has not toppled since Roman times, and then during the Middle Ages, the gilt ball, or the gold-covered ball on top of the obelisk, was believed to contain the ashes of Julius Caesar. And again, Fontana later removed the ancient ball, now in a Rome museum, that stood atop the obelisk and found only dust. Okay, interesting. I don't know if I fully buy that. So Pedro Tafur, in his Anadantes circa 1440, mentions that many passed between the ground and the tower base, thinking it a, quote, saintly thing. So here's the original. Oh, well, after, when it was moved to Rome, that was the first place it was moved to Rome, and then it was moved later over to the forward there, and there's the old basilica. It looks still somewhat similar. So the old Basilica of St. Peter with the obelisk at the left in its original place. So note, when I was making this video, this was the first image I saw of the old basilica, and thought maybe the old location of the obelisk is the same as the current location of the Pope VI Audience Hall. If that was the area there, this would have been a game changer, and I'll explain that as I get through in this very extensive video. So now the question is, what is an obelisk? So if you look at, again, Wikipedia, and I view them as just horribly under-reporting. So an obelisk, from ancient Greek, diminutive of this right here, spit, nail, pointed pillar, is a tall, four-sided, narrow tapering monument which ends in a pyramid-like shape or pyramidion at the top. These were originally called tekhenon, though tekhenu, by their builders, the ancient Egyptians. The Greeks who saw them used the Greek obeliskos to describe them, and this word passed into Latin and ultimately English. Ancient obelisks are monolithic, that is, they consist of a single stone. Apart from its shape, this is the major identifying characteristic of an obelisk, as it necessitates the technological ingenuity required to elevate into vertical position a massive rock weighing hundreds of tons. So though this technological capacity exists today, most modern obelisks are made of several stones, like the Washington Monument are buildings. Actually, write that again. So yeah, so some of them, like the Washington Monument, are actually buildings and not just a full-on obelisk. Very interesting. So the term stele is generally used for other monumental, upright, inscribed, and sculpted stones. Here's another Egyptian one with the hieroglyphs like that. Okay, quite interesting. There's a pyramid on top. So obelisks of pharaohs and Sutrad al-Malal area of whatever in district in modern Heliopolis. And here's another one here. This is the Washington Monument. So as again, it states it's a building that looks like a giant obelisk. So technically it's an obelisk by the original definition, but it's an obelisk in my opinion. So what Wikipedia doesn't mention, though, is that the obelisk looks like a giant phallic symbol. There's nowhere it mentions it in there. Well, in the this article at least, and the other ones, or the other pages, they barely gloss over, or they barely covered. So, and I'm the view that this may have been the intended design, at least part of the design. So my view is that it is in some way a phallic symbol by design, and yeah, at least some part of that is in there. And then if you go to this website, Collective Evolution, or collective-evolution.com, and it states the surprising hidden meaning of the Washington Monument. So here it says the Washington Monument is a structure called an obelisk, measuring 555 feet and 5 inches high. According to Wikipedia, an obelisk is a tall, four-sided, narrow, tapering monument which ends in a pyramid-like shape at the top. These were originally called tekhennu by the builders, as I just read above. Ancient Egyptians, which were those original builders. What Wikipedia failed to mention is that the obelisk tekhennu is actually a giant tribute to the phallus, or penis. So that's according to this site here. So in the book Our Phallic Heritage by Charles G. Berger, the author states all pillars or columns originally had a phallic significance and were therefore considered sacred. Pan, the goat god and god of sensuality, was often described as an obelisk. The obelisk is a long, pointed, four-sided shaft, uppermost portion of which forms a pyramid. The word obelisk literally means Baal's shaft, or Baal's organ of reproduction. So note here, about this article and also referencing this book are phallic heritage, which I've seen other even universities they cite that book, so I wouldn't rule that out. So it does seem credible. But again, note I've not fully verified the claims made in this article about obelisks and their origins, especially about Baal's organ of reproduction, or Baal's shaft, like that. I believe Baal was mentioned in the Bible and the Old Testament, as well as even in the video game in Diablo, where you have to fight Baal as a final boss or whatnot. So, but it does not seem too far-fetched. So even though I've not fully verified these claims, it doesn't even seem that far-fetched. And this site also notices Wikipedia's lack of mentioning the possible phallic significance of obelisks. And whatever Wikipedia doesn't mention, it usually has some truth to it. So they don't even bother stating that it's not a phallic symbol, because to my view it clearly looks like one. So I'll have to research further to confirm the details of the origins of obelisks, but it does seem pretty obvious to me that an obelisk literally looks like a giant penis, and likely the intention of the designer. It's just a giant pointy stick in the air, and you got Pharaoh having it, all basically the emperor's taking it, now you got the Pope taking it. So the question is, but why? So more on this later in the video, but first let's take a look at the Fazzini sculpture. So now let's look at that Fazzini, the Resurrection sculpture. Again, if you look at Wikipedia, the Resurrection, or La Resurrezione, or La Resurrezione, okay, horrible pronouncing. I'm just going to call it the Resurrection, is an 800 quintal or 8 metric ton bronze copper alloy sculpture by Pericolo Fazzini in the Paul VI Audience Hall in Rome, and it's intended to capture the anguish of 20th century mankind living under the threat of nuclear war. La Resurrezione depicts Jesus rising from a nuclear crater in the Garden of Gethsemane, and its dimensions are 66 feet by 23 by 10, and the commission for the work was ordered by Count Galeazzi in 1965. Casting began at the Michelucci Art Foundry in Pistoia in 1972. The final sketch was produced in 1975, and the work was completed and inaugurated by September 20th, 1977. The original work was done in polyestyrene, and this is a plastic, and the fumes of the burning plastic gave Fazzini a blood clot during its production. Wow. It was restored over 3 months in 2011, so it was restored then with bronze copper, I believe. So thus, the original was made of plastic in 1977, and it was restored in 2011 with bronze copper alloy. Note, why doesn't this Wikipedia page just show the image of the sculpture? And now, yeah, so because it was restored, I had to double check if it was a different one. Here's an old video that I found. This was during, I believe, before the restoration. There's the Pope Paul VI. I believe that's him there. And if you see this image like that, and it looks very, very similar to the one afterwards, as I will show. So this video shows a pre-restoration sculpture, and as far as I can tell, it looks identical, besides just the material being different, from going from plastic to copper bronze alloy. And here it is like that. It looks very, very similar to that, like that. So Pericolo Fazzini, let's look into him a bit. So was an Italian painter and sculptor. He is notable for works such as the La Resurrezione in the Paul VI Audience Hall. Here's the image there, and there's that giant Jesus statue. So U.S. Defense Secretary Leon E. Panetta attends an audience with Pope Benedict XVI at the Vatican in Vatican City in January 16, 2013. Panetta is on a 6-day trip to Europe to visit with defense counterparts and troops. So you have it over there, and you got powerful U.S. Defense Secretary attending it too. Bunch of power brokers. And again, in my opinion, that just looks like a giant, boss or whatever. So definitely looks disturbing at first sight. Let's take a closer look. And again, first I just corrected that here. So if you go to this webpage, where it has a good image of it clearly like this. So in my opinion, this sculpture does look like a final boss in a video game, especially given the bizarre surrounding architecture, like the this whole snake-like audience hall. You got the St. Peter's Basilica, kind of looks like a snake with a tongue sticking out into the Vatican City. Yeah, I don't know. None of this is making any sense anymore. So now let's play around with some mirroring effects to see if anything is hidden, or if there's anything hidden here. So you have this like this. So what I did, just to see if there's something hidden there, because I believe there's a face here, and this will become more and more apparent. So let's play around with it. So here's a download the Photoshop link here if you want to go and play around with it. What I did, so first I'd made a high contrast version just so you could see it a bit better, because a bunch of shadows in the back and stuff. So here's a higher contrast of it. And now you have, now here what I did, I mirrored the left side, but showing two heads. So I kind of mirrored it like this, but more to the right, just to see what we can find. So we have this like that. Let's zoom in like that. It looks like a hole in the center. And look at this face we have. What is this? Okay, so that's very interesting. Look at the face like that. That looks pretty disturbing. But this is the face that is more important. So then I mirrored the left side with three eyes. Like that. What was the original one? Oh, the original one was two heads, like that. Yeah, actually, I quickly just realized I had the wrong image here. I used the same one for the mirrored with three eyes. So here's a two-headed one like this, because my goal is to find out which one is the designer intentionally made. But again, you see this face there. This is just getting weirder and weirder. If you now we go three eyes, look at like that. This is just ridiculous. So going on, now you have three heads like that, and again you have this beast-like shape there, and I believe this is intentional. This is not just random. How do you have that perfect face-like shape? You got the eyes there, it's like a demon. You got the horns and ears or whatnot. Okay. Now here I did the just two eyes, and this one I believe is probably the closest to being what the designer wanted, like that. So then the question first came in my mind, is that Baphomet? This guy always appears everywhere. So now if you go to Baphomet again, recall of my earlier video, I went over it, but I'm going to go over it again. So in Wikipedia, go to Baphomet, like here is a term originally used to describe an idol or other deity that the Knights Templar were accused of worshipping, and that subsequently was incorporated into disparate occult and mystical traditions. It appeared as a term for a pagan idol in trial transcripts of the Inquisition of the Knights Templar in the early 14th century. The name first came to popular English usage in the 19th century, with debate and speculation on the reasons for the suppression of the Templars. And now since 1856, the name Baphomet has been associated with a sabbatical goat image drawn by Eliphas Levi, which contains binary elements representing the sum total of the universe, e.g. Male, female, good, and evil. So you have, there's Baphomet like that, there's the horns, the wings, and you got his pants there with the World Health Organization symbol like that with that staff, and then you have the two snakes going around there, and I'll revisit that later in this video as well. And I'm telling you, this video is going to be pretty extensive, so just keep in your seats for this wild ride. So here's a 19th century image of a sabbatical goat created by Eliphas Levi. The arms bear the Latin solve, separate, and coagula, join together. So you have separate, join together. You got the boobs there. This is topless man, woman, beast. And then you get the light on top, the horns, you got the star, black, white. Very, very interesting like that. And you got the goat legs like that. Okay, and then this is a very interesting pose like that. So modern interpretations usage Baphomet, as Levy's illustration suggests, has occasionally been portrayed as synonym of Satan or a demon, a member of the hierarchy of hell. And now if you compare the two images right here, and I think we've seen a match. This is not coincidence, this is not random, this is not an accident. And look at this. Look at the face right here, and look at this demon like that. I'm not saying it's exactly Baphomet, but I'm just saying this is not, this it could be that. I don't know what this is. So uncanny, hashtag WTF, hashtag this is not random. This is something. It could be that. Not 1,000% sure, but I'm just saying this might as well be that. Okay, and then you have the shirtless guy like that as well, and the shirtless Baphomet. Yeah, I don't know if you have a better beast demon thingy that more resembles this one, let me know. But that's pretty interesting. So, and then speaking of Baphomet, I want to bring him up because George Washington shows up because Baphomet. I don't know why these world elites are all linked to him. So George Washington, 1732, and yeah, died 1799. Was an American politician and soldier who served as the first president of the United States of America from 1789 to 1797, and was one of the founding fathers of the United States. And you can see here, General of the Armies, George Washington, like that. And he was, yeah, this is drawn by Gilbert Stuart. So he's the first president of the United States. That was position disestablished, and then Vice President John Adams, succeeded by John Adams. And yeah, Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. So now I want to go over him. He's first president, and now there's a monument of him or a sculpture. And George Washington Greenhoe. Yes, George Washington, 1840, is a massive sculpture by Horatio Greenhoe, commissioned for the centennial or the 100-year anniversary of U.S. President George Washington's birth in February 22nd, 1732. And look at the pose he's doing. Look at the shirtlessness of him. Look at the abs and the chest muscle. Okay, interesting. There's that pose like that. And yeah, this is very interesting. So, Horatio Greenhoe enthroned Washington on Fides' great statue of Zeus Olympus, which was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world and which was destroyed in late antiquity. So he based it on Zeus. So you got the first president of the United States based on Zeus. Somehow looks like Baphomet. I'll get to that in a bit. So nothing like the first U.S. president posing like Baphomet. Hashtag not a coincidence. Now if you go to the Zeus, right here, statue of Zeus at Olympia. The statue of Zeus at Olympia was a giant seated figure, about 13 meters, that's massive, made by the Greek sculptor Phidias around 435 BC at the sanctuary of Olympia, Greece, and erected in the temple of Zeus. Zeus there, a sculpture of ivory plates and gold panels over a wooden framework. It represented the god Zeus sitting on an elaborate cedar wood throne ornamented with ebony, ivory, gold, and precious stones, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was lost and destroyed during the 5th century AD, with no copy ever being found, and the details of its form are known only from ancient Greek descriptions and representations on coins. And there it is, apparently, that George Washington Monument was based on this guy right there. Is a shirtless. Everyone's got to be shirtless with some sick abs there. So Olympian Jupiter and the sculpture antiquity art of Quadrimario de Quincy. Okay, is that Jupiter, Zeus? I'll have to look more into it. But anyways, look what we have. It's a big occult club, and you're not invited. So you got Baphomet, you got George Washington, first U.S. president. You got Zeus or Jupiter right here. So it's, yeah, so I believe is that the same thing. So yeah, I'm new to this occult Greek mythology, or I don't know if it's mythology. I don't know what is a mythology anymore. So every day I realize I know even less and less about the world runs. You got the most powerful, most well-known people or gods or whatever acting like this Baphomet guy. All right, I just don't know anymore. I don't know anything anymore. So also recall from Pizzagate part 28 in my video series there. You could go watch it at mes.fm/Pizzagate-vote. That Baphomet's pants look like the logo. It's a double the. So it looks like the logo of the U.S. Public Service or PHS and the World Health Organization, WHO. Hashtag you can't make this stuff up. Everything is intertwined in that Baphomet guy. So here's Baphomet's pants. Yes, Baphomet's pants. You got the staff. You got these snakes around. Here's the World Health Organization logo around the UN logo, and there's that staff with a snake. And now here the U.S. Public Service Health Service has 2 snakes around the pole or staff or whatever that is. So it also recall that WHO. Or the World Health Organization is part of the United Nations, or UN, in which the UN was founded, along with the atomic bomb. And, it was founded along with the atomic bomb at the Bohemian Grove, where rich men meet in secret and perform ritualistic human sacrifice to a giant owl. You know, I'll put here a mock. I believe it is just a mock human sacrifice to a giant owl every year, and it's in the United States. And again, watch Pizzagate Part 218 to see all the references for that. And here's one of the images there. There's a giant owl. These are the people, a bunch of rich, powerful men burning fake human effigy. I don't know if it's fake anymore. I wouldn't rule it out that it's being real. But these are the guys that created the United Nations and the atomic bomb, or at least drafted it there, or at least publicly. and these are the guys that run the world. So these are the people that run the world. Hashtag the world is a strange place. Hashtag boycott everything. I don't want to follow these guys' plans. These guys are nutcases. So now look at back to mirroring. I'm now going to mirror the right side of that statue. Or the sculpture. So now if you did it with 3 eyes right here, if you zoom in, you get 3 eyes like this. This looks like an absolute, I don't know what this is, like demon winged guy. And are those hands? It does look like hands. I'll just write this out. Hands, or grabbing or hand? Grabbing, okay, as hands or wings. Okay, this is getting interesting. So now I mirrored with 2 eyes because I want to find out which one's the intended one, because I believe this is intended to have this mirroring effect. It does look like a demon out here. Mirrored 1 eye like that. Here's a 2 eye one. I think then the 1 eye like this. I believe the 1 eye is better because then it becomes a nose. Nose. And then you got the eyes here, and you got some weird stuff on the back. There's the mouth like this. I'll just erase this. Okay, that's some crazy stuff. So I don't know anything anymore. This is getting too ridiculous. So it does appear that the designer intended to show these images when mirrored, which yes, that's my view on it. If you think otherwise, please explain, because I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't. And also, there's some other crazy mouths or eyes here, and other stuff like that. Quite fascinating. So it does appear that it was intended by them. So which ones do you think was the intended figure, if it was intended, which I believe it was? So my guess is the mirrored left side with 2 eyes, that's the number 3 above, and the mirrored right side with 1 eye that looks like a nose, and here they are like that. So those are my views. And if you put them like just one of them transparent a bit and see that, it looks trippy. Here I combined both of the above 2 mirrored images. It looks creepy, and there's the wings in the back, there's the face coming out. But this face right here, this is unbelievable. So now let's see what other stuff we can come up with. So if you go to this christianchat.com website right here, and they have a good image that includes the Pope right here with his hands up. And I believe someone was talking about how they position them at the right spots because of the imagery in the background. So let's just time to do some mirroring. So here's again another Photoshop file that I did. You can go play around with it to see all my stuff there. There's a link to the Dropbox file there. There's the .xcf file. So mirror the left side with the Pope like this. Yeah, so we get this right here is the Pope. Looks kind of like, I believe someone's saying like a mother nun or a nun. I don't know about that yet. But again, look at this. There's the Pope on top and the bottom. Holy cow, you got this shape here. This is a face on the stomach. Okay, I don't know if I'm just seeing things in here anymore. As above, so below. Hashtag mind blown here. The mirror the right side. If you mirror the right side, it looks like now his arms are raised. Now it looks like he's the person helping them, or bishop or whatnot. And there's the Pope. Okay, the Pope appears as a bishop in this picture. Hashtag interesting. And you got this little design there. Someone was saying it was something, but I'm not sure yet. So now let's see if we can mirror some of the other people in the above photograph, reflecting the left side of each person minus the speaker. So here I did each person at the right spot relative to the original image. So you got some crazy shapes like this. You got some mouth there, some eyes, and this one, is that an animal or something that's flying? Is that a lobster? Lobster? I don't know what this is. So anyways, some pretty cool or weird shapes. You got some other ones. You got another face-like stuff like that. So anyways, let's move forward. So we're reflecting the right side of each person minus the speaker. I'll do the speaker later. So here's again relative ones there. I just reflected the right side. So I take the right side and then move it over to this side. The other one is the other way around. So you have these again crazy shapes. Is this the Freemason symbol like that, or the Yeah, anyways, I'll show you that at the end. So again, important note, while the reflections seem pretty ominous, it appears that it doesn't really matter where we reflect from. Hashtag very interesting. And here's just a random spot, again, with the relative size around there. From the left side, I just reflected a random one there, and you can see a crazy cool, bizarre shape like that, nonetheless. So same random spot reflected from right side, and you get another crazy shape like that. Okay, is that a star in there? So yep, it does appear that that it doesn't matter where you reflect from, we still get ominous shapes or bizarre shapes. Now this may be due to the nature of symmetric objects and properties of reflection, or that the designer had reflection in mind throughout the sculpture, but one thing that I am sure of is that the reflection of the main half containing Jesus is by design, the one where you got the Baphomet one. Hashtag not random. That's my position here. You disagree? just keep it to yourself. I'm not, or comment below and explain why, because I don't know how that could be just random. So let's see some more designs. Left gesture reflected whole from left plus right. Yeah, from the left side, and then the right gesture reflected whole from the right. So I combined both these ones. So it reflected whole of them. So I reflect here. This is from left, and then right one from right there. That's from right, and this one's from left. That's kind of what I mean. And now you got some crazy shapes like that. Oh, I don't know what this flying thing is. And you got another shape there. Okay. Quite interesting. This is what I was just trying to see if I could find anything that was quite ridiculous. Because someone was saying that if you put them together separately like that, it might mean some sort of genetic manipulation or something. I'll explain that later. Here's another one. There's the terms there. You could read them properly. Is that a frog or something? Interesting. Here's now speaker reflected whole from right. And here's some interesting. Is that eyes? Looks like an ape or a mouth. Okay. Okay. Now we're just going crazy. So mirroring does some pretty cool designs. So try yourself. Let me know of any cool or hidden designs. Here are the Photoshop links again for reference in the same place. Here's a Fazzini sculpture, and here's a Fazzini sculpture plus Pope. Like that is drop. Or those are the OneDrive links. So now let's see how the sculpture looks like from the audience's perspective. So if you go to here, this is I believe there's a orchestra there, and this is one was with lighting. I wanted to see this one to see how ridiculous it would be if I do some mirroring. So here's the Jesus one there. Now if we zoom in, again, by itself it looks pretty ominous. It just looks pretty ridiculous on itself like that. And then here's the download Photoshop link that I did here. And here I did reflect, so it does look like with the eyes are shining, or I don't know. So the eyes, those are interesting. There's like a little circle there. Okay, so it does look like the eyes are shining. It has to be right at the eyes of the Baphomet-like sculpture there. And then if you do it this side, what is this head? Okay, okay. So in my view, without mirroring, the sculpture with bright colored lights is ominous enough, but mirroring just takes it to another level. It's like, imagine just watching this and everyone's looking around like, you guys not know it's a giant beast-like shape? Here's another one I mirrored just to see the difference. So here, very, very ominous indeed. And you got that Baphomet-like shape there. Now you got that crazy beast-like shape there. Okay, and again, similar to the Baphomet, where it's part man, part beast. It's like this similar terminology. This can't be all random. I don't know what random is anymore. So yeah, I don't know anymore. Hashtag mine keeps blowing up. Note, given the audience hall looks like a giant snake's head, the red carpet does look like the snake's tongue. Hashtag reality is stranger than fiction. Because remember, it's a giant snake head, there's the fangs, and there's the red carpet all the way across. Okay, I think it just gets crazier and crazier. So now we have the red carpet to add to our snake symbology. So let me know if you find some cool images to apply this mirroring or other hidden effects that you know of. And here's another one from Pinterest someone did, and they just highlighted the center part when they mirrored it just to show how crazy it looks like. Unbelievable. This is a great image like that. I just don't know anymore. And you can see the mirroring. This guy's pointing there. This guy's pointing left. So glad to know I'm not the only one that noticed this. So yes, I'm not The only one just losing it. So now Fazzini's other works. So let's look at his other works to get a better idea. So just like with Nervi, to get a better idea about the meaning of the resurrection sculpture, we need to look at Fazzini's other works. And now we go to Wikipedia. Pericolo Fazzini, go down at the bottom, has the works. So Monument to Pedro Pio, and has the Resurrezione. That's the one I just went over. And then the Tabernacolo in Rome, and then you have this Monumento alla Resistenza in Ancona. So here is this one. If you type in the Monumento de Pedro Pio Fazzini, or then put Fazzini there, this one is in San Giovanni Rotondo or whatnot. So here's some images. If you go to DuckDuckGo on images, you have this one right here. Now if we go into the article, yes, if you go in this article that goes mentions that statue, and initially just the webpage says Statue de Pedro Pio de Pericolo Fazzini. And again, so I translated this using Google Chrome's plugin from Italian to English. So Statue Pedro Pio Pericolo Fazzini. It's not perfectly translated, but it's good enough for me. So this is the I believe it's a saint, Pedro. Yeah, so statue of Pedro Pio by Pericolo Fazzini, like this. So you have him rising above. I believe those are just different images of himself and other pilgrims like that, and there's him getting to sainthood or whatnot. So the famous artist Pericolo Fazzini has made bronze sculptures of Pedro Pio, highlighting the most significant moments of the life of the friar. Sculptor Pericolo Fazzini designed this particular statue of Father Pio, imagining the saint among the people. The sculpture rests on pilgrims leading up to, yes, so pilgrim clouds leading up to Saint Pius in an idea of glorification. So yeah, leading up to Saint Pius in an idea of glorification. So the wax moved by the wind, the figure of the saint with the priest's stool, with his arms and face turned to Christ. Particularly interesting, in the voids you can see 6 profiles of Father Pio. In the various profiles you can see the head that expresses the suffering and the joy with which it has begun to lift the suffering. Very interesting. So that's, I believe that's him in there. And then rising up, and there's pilgrim images there, and there's Jesus on the cross, and now he's rising above. This is, again, very similar architecture to the resurrection one. So yeah, very similar sculpture to the resurrection. Also, I want to make a note. The article made a typo when it stated that the statue was built in 1897. I believe none of these guys were alive at that time. That's I think it should have been 1987. I'll have to double check on that. So now another work he did. This is the Tabernacolo Fazzini. And here's a bunch of images. I believe those the location in. Is that a triangle? Is that a pentagram? Okay, I gotta find where this one is, like that. Very interesting. Yeah, anyways, so this is the one I believe that it's talking about. So if you zoom in there, you have the tabernacle like that there. But anyways, I just found that interesting. Let's see, another work he has is the Monumento alla Resistenza. The only one I found was an Italian one on an Italian Wikipedia page. It doesn't have an English one, so I translated that. So it has this quote: La Repubblica sorda delle Resistenze Gloria della Sia Origina. This is going to be one of the more interesting works that he's done. Actually, the other one was pretty interesting as well. It looks like pretty much like the resurrection with the saint rising up to sainthood or glorification, as he was talking about. So translate with Google Chrome browser plugin from Italian to English. So Monument to the Resistance Ancona. The Monument to the Resistance of Ancona lies within the Pincio Park. The sculpture is in bronze by Pericolo Fazzini and contains the phrase, "A resistance republic is born of the glory of its origin." Was inaugurated on 17th October 1965. This was before the Jesus resurrection statue that he built in the audience hall. So the monument represents a man hanging from his arms to a branch of a stylized tree of human appearance, with the opposite side of a bird lying on the branch. Very, very interesting. Like this, and this will get more and more interesting as you follow along in this video. So a man hanging from his arms to a branch of a stylized tree of human appearance. And then you have the dove on the other side. So I'll get to that in a bit. So this Wikipedia page doesn't show the image. Should I get your act together? But if you go to the Ancona one, the location right here, it's in, I believe it's a town or in Italy right here, Ancona. This is the, I should have just left it in Italian. like that. Going further, and here it is. Here's the man hanging from a tree that's in a stylized as a human or a man, like this. And you have the dove on top, and there's that saying, the Republica of the Resistance is glorified, or let me see the other one. So Resistance Republic is born of the glory of its origin. It's talking about origin or creation. And you have a tree or tree of life, and you have a person hanging at a dove. Is that genetic manipulation? These are questions I'm asking because I'll start making somewhat more sense later on. So Pinico Monumento, whatever, resistance to Percola Fazzini. So very, very interesting sculpture of a man holding onto a human-like tree, which has a bird on one end, as I'll explain later on. Fazzini may be describing man's, quote, creation, hashtag tree of life. So now let's look at the summary and conclusions. Here's a summary of what we have so far. So Pope VI Audience Hall by Nervi, completed in 1971, looks like a giant snake's head from inside and outside. That's a undeniable fact that this, as far as I'm concerned. So the audience hall appears to be, quote, biting the Vatican from map view. St. Peter's Square appears as a giant key entering the Vatican from map view. St. Peter's Square also appears as a giant snake with its tongue sticking out. And St. Peter's Square contains an obelisk at the center. That was originally the obelisk originally belonged to an Egyptian pharaoh. I believe it's unknown according to Wikipedia. So the first Roman Emperor Augustus moved the obelisk to Julian Forum in Alexandria, and the third Roman Emperor Caligula destroyed the Forum and moved the obelisk to Rome at the center of the Circus of Nero, where brutal games and Christian executions were taking place. And then about 1,000 or so years later, in 1586, Pope Sixtus V moved the obelisk to the current site just outside of there. But if people were like getting killed off that, especially Christians, why are you still dealing with this obelisk? There's something about it. I would have probably had it destroyed or put in a museum and just locked up somewhere, not glorifying it. Or I believe the mainstream version would be, okay, they are using that suffering and then putting on top of that, or rising above. So again, there's always two sides of the coin, depending on how you look at it. And the true meaning is always, you gotta dig, dig, and dig. And the architect Bernini made it the centerpiece of the St. Peter's Square. So when it was moved there, none made it the centerpiece of it. So the gilt ball, or the gold-covered ball on the obelisk, was removed and replaced with a cross. Yeah, and I'll hear right, and the Shiga arms. And now to summarize the Fazzini sculpture. So that was just the audience hall in St. Peter's Square and the obelisk. So now to summarize the Fazzini sculpture, the Resurrection, or La Resurrezione by Percola or Persili Fazzini, was finished in 1977. The original work was made with plastic, but restored in 2011 with a bronze copper alloy. It is located in the mouth of the snake-like Pope VI audience hall. The sculpture is meant to be Jesus rising from a nuclear crater in a nuclear apocalypse, as well as to capture the anguish felt during the Cold War. The sculpture looks very ominous, and in my opinion, it looks like the final boss in a video game. When mirrored from the left side, a topless man representing the Pope appears above a giant animal or demonic-like being, similar to the infamous Baphomet. When mirrored from the right side, we see a demonic being with wings. Whether intentional or not, mirroring across nearly any location on the sculpture presents some very interesting, to say the least, designs. Lots of skulls and or faces look to appear in the original and mirror sculpture, or mirrored sculpture. So now, given the snake-like audience hall, the red carpet leading to the sculpture looks like just a snake's tongue. So Nervi's previous works includes buildings that literally look like flying saucer UFOs. Fazzini's previous works include sculptures that depict man's creation, origins, ascendance, and or glorification. Very similar to the resurrection. So given their previous work, the combination of Nervi's audience hall and Fazzini's resurrection make this puzzle all the more intriguing. So what are the odds that Nervi and Fazzini were the ones given the nod to go ahead with these two works? So now, trying to make sense of all this, and I don't like speculating, but sometimes it's pretty fun. So speculating is the one thing I hate the most, because getting even the smallest detail wrong can lead to extremely wrong conclusions, and that's why my videos are so long and covering pretty much like one topic and so on, because you can't just move on unless you've fully verified. But anyway, but since the mainstream media or mainstream religious institutions won't dare to try to explain or even bring up the bizarre architecture of the Vatican City, we must look elsewhere, and that's why I'm making this video, because I don't see any answers anywhere. Even the Vaticans won't mention all the snake-like architecture. So in fact, even quote alternative sources don't explain much besides making broad statements about quote Satan or quote reptilians, because again, regardless of whether they are true or not, we need concrete evidence or arguments, not just blanket or lazy statements. Yeah, I just change it to lazy, it sounds a bit better. But maybe quote occult researchers and philosophers may help explain this. So let's see, if I go to the occult on Wikipedia, this is the occult from Latin word occultus, clandestine, hidden, secret, is the knowledge of the hidden. In common English usage, occult refers to knowledge of the paranormal as opposed to knowledge of the measurable, usually referred to as science. I don't like this definition because this just makes it like occult just some random stuff that's not really science. I don't know what science is anymore. So anyways, to go further, so the term is sometimes taken to mean knowledge that is meant only for certain people or that must be kept hidden, but for most practicing occultists, it is simply the study of a deeper spirituality or spiritual reality that extends beyond pure reason and the physical sciences. The terms esoteric and arcanian can also be used to describe the occult. In addition to their meanings unrelated to the supernatural, it also describes the number of magical organizations or orders, the teachings and practices taught by them, and to a large body of current and historical literature and spiritual philosophy related to this subject. And now this brings me to this video I saw. It's called The Destruction of Atlantis by Michael Tazarian, and I found very, very fascinating. And I'll get through this. This is the Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Mobile, Virgin Group logo here. The original logo, which has a bunch of other subsidiaries or other mini companies that are pretty large on themselves. And I'll illustrate this symbology. Very, very fascinating. So this is the first video I ever seen of Michael Tazarian, and was blown away by his knowledge. I don't necessarily agree with him, but he does force you to expand your mind and consciousness. So he put a lot of interesting arguments out there, but again, just the vast knowledge he has, whether they're fully accurate or not, is still pretty vast. And his other guy right here on Jerome Wright, he was talking about this mirroring images as well on the Vatican, or on the Fazzini sculpture right here, and he's using mirrored imaging like that. Very interesting. So Jerome Wright is he's much less sophisticated and harder to follow along in his explanations of the cult, but he's one of the few that actually cover the Fazzini sculpture, and now I'll add to that few. So both Michael and Jerome speak of, so the reason I'm bringing them up is because they both speak of genetic manipulation of the human population by advanced beings in the past, as well as suggesting that genetically manipulating reptiles or snakes worked well for those beings because of their quote cold-blooded lack of empathy, hashtag or something like that. I need to wrap my head around. So anyways, let's entertain this idea. And here's a quote from the quotes.in. This is from Aristotle, I believe. It's on the internet, so it's probably real. So it is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. And this is what I always want to tell people. You don't need to accept what I'm about to say. I just want you to entertain it, because it's pretty, very interesting. This is pretty much my entire philosophy in a nutshell. So now if we assume genetic manipulation was taking place, so make sure to watch those other videos. It's pretty long though, but the Michael Tazarian one is very, very fascinating. And I believe it's just a must-watch, just to get his philosophy on it. Very interesting. So now, if we assume genetic manipulation was taking place by advanced beings, or aliens, or whatnot, whatever they are, as well as assuming that an obelisk has phallic connotations intentionally by the designers, then we can deduce the following. The snake-like architecture, quote, biting into the Vatican, symbolizes alien and or reptilian DNA being infused into the Vatican or human race, something like that. The obelisk symbolizes penetration of this outside DNA into the Vatican/human race. And Jesus was a special genetically created being, which also explains being born of the Virgin Mary. So thus the nuclear crater, or quote, nuclear crater that Jesus is rising out, is actually describing him coming out of the nucleus of an atomic or genetic engineering creation. Hashtag mind blown. Unreal. This could explain why Nervi has designed UFO-like buildings. This could explain the true meaning of Fazzini's glorification or origins sculptures, and this could explain the Nephilim and or quote fallen angels mentioned in the Bible. And let me know what other cryptic meanings that this could provide an explanation for. So these are some far out claims, but then again, we need far out claims to explain far out circumstances, such as the religious leader of over 1 billion people. Which is the Pope speaks out the mouth of a giant snake's head. Hashtag we live in strange times. So again, these are some far out claims, but again, we're dealing with some far out circumstances. So now we also need, we may also, I also put the may because, I don't know, I'm just speculating. So we may also need far out claims to explain why the current world leaders are absolute psychopaths. And most important of all, we need far out claims to explain the use of hidden free energy technology in 9/11 and the systematic coordination of the seemingly quote independent countries, news outlets, science and education institutions, and quote private companies in the world. Hashtag NWO, or the New World Order, is already here, and according to Michael Zarian, is not new. It's an old or occult world order. So make sure to watch my ongoing hashtag 9/11 Truth video series here at mes.fm/911truth-playlist, because what happened on 9/11 is the towers turned to dust in mid-air using free energy tech. Quite fascinating. So make sure to watch it. So now, if this is true or has some truth to it, like ancient genetic manipulation, then it even puts a whole new meaning to Superman. So remember, there's a Superman, Man of Steel. He's super advanced, and it comes from an alien distance. And look at here. Here's the Man of Steel, the new logo they have, like this. I don't know about you, but the Superman logo does look like a snake. Hashtag mind blown times 1,000. There's the S. There's the snake head. I don't know anymore. This looks like a snake. Okay. Superman. Again, what is being implied here? Now, to get back to Michael Zarian's video about Atlantis and genetic manipulation, he mentions the multi-billion-dollar quote company Virgin Group with such well-known subsidiaries as Virgin Mobile, Virgin Atlantic. It's always that Atlantis or Atlantic phraseology, and here's the Virgin Oceanic and Virgin Galactic. What are they implying here? And the original logo they use, so that's the one he had in his screenshot of his video right here, and I'll show you a better more higher quality image of that. So again, this is just some speculating on my part, but you gotta speculate when there's a Superman with a snake symbol like that, and it gets more bizarre. So go to Wikipedia. Virgin Group. Virgin Group Limited is a British multinational corporation, venture capital conglomerate founded by entrepreneurs Sir, knighted by the Queen, Richard Branson and Nick Powell. Virgin Group's date of incorporation is listed as 1989 by Companies House, who class it as a holding company. However, Virgin's business and trading activities date to the 1970s, when the audience hall and the Fazzini sculpture was built. Just a coincidence, or I don't know what is a coincidence anymore. So the net worth of Virgin Group was estimated 5 to 5.5 billion euros, or I believe that's euros, as of November 2014. So here is the current logo. It just says Virgin like that. Yeah, so founded in 1970 February, 47 years ago. And this is a revenue of 2016 now is 19.5 billion euros, like that. Number of employees approximately 71,000. Unreal. So the brand name quote Virgin arose when Richard Branson and Nick Powell formed a record shop. They considered themselves virgins in business, so that's their reasoning, I believe. Branson has described the V in the logo as an expressive tick representing the Virgin seal of approval. Okay, so now if you go to this creativeblog.com, shows the different logos, or this Virgin redesigns this original logo, and this is 2013. So as part of its 40th anniversary. Anniversary celebrations. Virgin revisited its past and releases a new quote, finished version of its original 1973 logo. Now going back to the 1973 logo here. The original logo for Virgin, known as the Gemontia or no, this is Gemini or Twins logo, was designed by English artist and illustrator Roger Dean, who is famous for his exotic, mystical landscapes, a far cry from the current signature style of Virgin logo I just showed above. It featured a young naked woman in mirror image with a large, long-tailed serpent or snake shown below. What is a billion-dollar company having this logo design as its original one? Okay, so it's my view is it was always meant to be a multi-billion-dollar one. So you got the red snake, serpent, dragon, or whatnot, and there's the tree of life. Now you got gene manipulation. There's the black heart. Okay, this is some crazy stuff. So old logo, Virgin's original 1973 reflects its hippie roots. I don't know, that's hippie. This is not. Now to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Virgin Records, Dean has released this newer, more confident version of the logo. Okay, that's the one with the hands up like that, and I don't know what this is. Flying, is that a dove or something? But again, there's that tree of life. There's a different kind of lizard like that, just black and white. New logo, Roger Dean has finally, quote, finished the logo design he originally visioned, but then they didn't let him, I guess. But notice here again, it looks like an eye there. Looks like a face there, okay. And let me know if you see anything else there. And there's the M like that by her legs, and I think that's her visage. Yeah, so anyways, so note the tree or tree of life, cloned woman, black heart, and red dragon. What are they telling us here? In my view, definitely not simply virgins of business. Yeah, because they've definitely, we're doing their symbolism or occult symbology work there, okay? I don't know how they get into that. Now here, Richard Branson, he tweeted out with Barack Obama, and they're looking at them vacationing together. So challenge at Barack Obama to a kite surfers foil board learning contest. Here's what happened. And there's Richard Branson hanging out with Barack Obama on vacation. Nothing like billionaire Richard Branson vacationing with former President Barack Obama, whom became the first Nobel Peace Prize winner to be responsible for 100,000 plus bombs being dropped on the Middle East. Hashtag war criminal. To learn more about war criminal Obama, see part 5 of my hashtag 9/11 Truth video series, and again at mes.fm/9/11truth-playlist. So basically, our current world leaders are literally laughing in our faces. There's not a chance this is just some random company has these kind of weird logos with some possible genetic manipulation background, and just created a record shop. These are just the biggest fake alibis. I don't know what the genetic manipulation is true or not, but all I do know, I'm pretty certain, is that Richard Branson was not just some random business startup with a record shop. I believe he was, quote, destined for this, or just pushed there for reasons. I don't know what the reasons are, but it is that. So yeah, anyway, so our current world, quote, leaders are literally laughing in our faces and may just be publishing their true hidden history in plain sight. Yeah, just corrected, I always typed that wrong. So we first need to just wake up and open our eyes to see it, and now let's revisit that World Health Organization again, the snake Baphomet symbol right here. So you gotta revisit it again. You got the snake, you got the shaft, and you got it wrapping around. This logo may be in fact representing the snake in the Garden of Eden, the tree of life, like that. How do they use all the same symbology? Now if you go to the Sistine Chapel, so the Sistine Chapel is a chapel in the Apostolic Palace, the official residence of the Pope in Vatican City, originally known as the Cappella Magna. The chapel takes its name from Pope Sixtus IV, who restored it between 1477 and 1480. Here's the Sistine Chapel, part of it. They're absolutely fascinating artwork there. So Sistine Chapel from the altar and like that. Look at these circles like that. It looks kind of like the Nervi's UFO buildings. Yeah, it's just speculation. Again, so that's the location there relative to it. So again, very, very close to it. There's the obelisk, the snake tongue like this with the cross. And there's the audience hall with the mouth, the eyes, the tongue through it, and biting it. Okay, so that's the location there. And that's in the Vatican City. Official website mv.vatican.va. MV, I believe that's Michael. No, I think it's Michelangelo. So, anyways, going further into this, if you go to Wikipedia, the Fall of Man right here. This is located in the Sistine Chapel. So, the Fall of Man, the fall depicted in the Sistine Chapel by Michelangelo, right next to St. Peter's Basilica on the other side, and there's the Pope Audience Hall on the south side. And notice what we have. There's a snake tempting Adam and Eve, and then they get banished. And look at him wrapping around the tree, and there's a person. Is that a person? Is that a woman there? It's got breasts there. So is that a woman, man, snake? I don't know what that is, but there's a tree of life. There's reaching out. So it definitely looks like the snake around a stick, pole, or shaft or staff logo from the WHO, AL, or others hashtag. Very, very interesting. This is just getting crazy bizarre. So going back to it again, so you got this logo like that, the snake around the shaft, around the tree of life. You have the serpent around there tempting Adam and Eve. They get kicked out. And now if you go to the Time magazine, they have Time magazine, January 11, 1999. Time, the future of medicine, like this. They have a snake wrapping around the shaft, or the staff, or the tree, or the wood, and there's a snake and there's DNA. Okay, I don't know, what are they telling us here? So now if you go to another one, 2003, and this is an interesting one. Will the U.S. go it alone in Iraq? Talking about Iraq war, but now you got a Time magazine special report on DNA. And you got the wrapping around the snake, so you have, or this looks like a tree there around it, around Adam and Eve. Looks very similar to that snake around the staff. And so yeah, nothing to see here. This one's a different edition of the Countdown to War as opposed to the Time magazine. Well, on this one, Lot's impeachment plan. Actually, that's this one here. Will the U.S. go it alone in Iraq? And they're posting this stuff here. And apparently the juxtaposition of this, the Countdown to War in Iraq, but then they're putting this other stuff in there. And I believe it might be an occult way of saying the real war they're doing is, well, it's the genetic war. So that's why you gotta listen to the Michael Assarian stuff. He just gives a lot of knowledge. He's a lot of info that you gotta wrap your head around. Again, whether he's right or not, or the overall one's right or not, or there's some mistakes or not. It's just fascinating just to try to even discuss some of the stuff he talks about. So again, nothing to see here, folks. You got the staff, you got the snake, you got the DNA, you got the tree of life. So what is they talking about here? Another interesting note that I want to make is that Zarian, or Michael Zarian, as well as others online, have pointed out that the letter G, more specifically the lowercase version of the G, is a symbol used by these, quote, people, which could explain why it looks like a snake. Hashtag mind blown. Is that not a snake or what? Now, if you go to this person, Irish Origins of Civilization, as well as Michael Zarian, post this image of the Gene Trust company or book or whatnot, be a part of history. What are they talking? And there's a giant G. It looks like a snake here. So I'm just gonna write that is a snake. Okay, but this one I couldn't verify this exact company or the logo there, so I wasn't able to verify if this Gene Trust company and or logo exists. But if you're able to find it, please let me know. But it still sure does look like a snake. That G. Okay, very interesting. So now the speculation. This is one speculation I had. The capital G in the infamous Freemasons. Yeah, the Freemasons logo may very well be to cover up the true or hidden logo of the lowercase g. Yeah, hashtag very, very interesting. So yeah, now if you go to the Freemasonry on Wikipedia, Freemasonry or Masonry consists of fraternal organizations that trace their origins to the local fraternities of stonemasons, which from the end of the 14th century regulated the qualifications of stonemasons and their interaction with authorities and clients. And there's the G right there. And yeah, now if you go to look at that infamous logo, there's the square and compass like this. And yeah, now you have that G there. So yeah, the Masonic square and compasses like that. And here states found with or without the letter G. Yeah, so yeah, what is that G exactly? And then now if you're measuring it, if this is actually gene manipulation, then this is, let's see how it looks like here. If this is actually that, so now you have the compass and now the ruler, and now what you're trying to actually do is manipulate the, let's see, do the G like that. Let's see what G looks like over here. And then you have the snake part here, and then it wraps around like this. So yeah, it definitely looks like a snake. It's a bad drawing, but you get the idea. It would make more sense of what they're actually trying to do. So anyways, let's go further into this. So modern Freemasonry broadly consists of two main recognition groups. Regular Freemasonry insists that a volume of scripture is open in a working lodge, that every member must profess believe in a supreme being, that no women are admitted, and that the discussion of religion and politics is banned. And then continental Freemasonry is now the general term for the, quote, liberal jurisdictions who have removed some or all of these restrictions, and it's just mainstream view of Freemasons. So yeah, so thus if this whole, quote, alien genetic manipulation is true, then this logo is extremely fitting, especially if used with the lowercase g. So if G is a symbol and a lowercase one, which looks like a snake, or at least more so than the G, and we got ourselves some very interesting stuff. Now, also interesting, if you go to the George Washington Masonic Monument in Holton, Maine, it's a Pinterest person took a photo of it. There's a George Washington one, and his monument says Freemason and First President. And this one also Michael Zarian pointed out, why is Freemason above First President? So important note, the term Freemason appears before First President. I guess he has his priorities straight. Hashtag not America first. He's the first president of the United States of America. And they fought Civil War, or not Civil War, I believe fought the British or whatnot. Yet he puts the Freemason above the first president. This is unreal. So FYI, this entire video is basically a glimpse of what goes on in my mind. Anyways, please let me know what you think of, what you think about this pretty extensive video, and if I should keep pushing through to uncover just exactly what is being hidden from us. Hashtag reality is stranger than fiction. Anyways, that is all for today. I don't know how much more mind blows I can go through. This is just unreal. The G is a snake. It does look like one. Genetic manipulation. You got countdown to war. And what's this DNA stuff we got on the Time magazine? You got the Tree of Life. You got the United Nations. You got the DNA symbol wrapped around the staff. And there's the Tree of Life. The snake serpent tempting Adam and Eve. Is it tempting, or is what are they doing there? Okay. And then you got the Public Health Service. You got the snakes. You got the staff. You got Baphomet's pants. Unreal. You got Richard Branson with Barack Obama, war criminal Obama. You got the Virgin Atlantic, Virgin logo, the black heart, the snake, the serpent, the Tree of Life, cloning, human genetic manipulations. I don't know what's going on anymore. And there's the Man of Steel. It does look like a snake or a serpent or a dragon or a reptile. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this video. And again, like always, you could just, this is a great quote. I believe it's Aristotle. Internet says it is, so it must be. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. So yeah, just entertain this thought about genetic manipulation and let me know what you come up with. And this one is a must-see video. Just watch it, open your mind, and let me know what you think. Very, very interesting, nonetheless. So yeah, that is all for. Let me scroll up, and there's the Fazzini, a man hanging from a human-like tree, and there's the dove. What does this symbolize? And this is the guy behind the Fazzini sculpture over there. There's probably some other hidden meanings in all this too. And this one too, rising above. There's the to become a saint, rising above a bunch of different people. Is he being super manly, genetically modified? Now you have this. I don't know what this is. Okay, I don't know what this is. If you have any ideas about this, let me know. let me just scroll back up. It's a giant video, a lot of images right here, a lot of big file. I'll upload this all to Steemit, and I might try BitChute, the BitTorrent decentralized video platform because of the YouTube censorship. Let me scroll back up. It's good. Hopefully you enjoyed this. There's a lot of work put into this video. And this, what is this? I don't know. I don't know what's this. Why don't they teach this in school? Again, school is just a indoctrination center. And my views, 9/11 pretty much proves this. Scroll back up, the infamous Baphomet. This image will go down in history as when the new world order becomes more and more apparent, to be like, hey, how come you never told us this is happening? What, you didn't see this image? I thought we made it as clear as possible. Okay, let's scroll back up. My computer's like freezing up because of these giant images. We're halfway. Scroll a bit faster, and there's that obelisk. And it's again, it does look like a giant phallic symbol, a giant penis. And now you put that at the center of the St. Peter's Square, right at the edge, or entering the Vatican City. It might be part of this whole gene manipulation, kind of stuff like that. I don't know what is happening here. And yeah, even that Shig's arms on it above. That's about the family tree or family lineage. And again, further maybe talks about the genetic bloodline, etc. And this is number pharaohs had it, the emperors had it of Rome, and now you have the Vatican has it. Unreal. there's the audience hall. There's the St. Peter's Basilica. Looks like a snake. You got the St. Peter's Square. You had the snake coming out with a snake tongue. When you combine this, and with all the internal stuff, and the audience hall, and it definitely looks like that. And you get the eyes. Imagine this was shining from far above. Anyways, yeah, there's the. Okay, that's too much. That's too much for me. And there's that biting it. Yeah, this is some of the most mind-blowing stuff. Now this one I was thinking maybe double helix or something like that, DNA or something. This one reptilian. I don't know. Maybe I'm just seeing things now. And now this gives a whole new meaning to Nervi's image of Jesus there. Maybe like the Superman logo there, and again rising above. You have the dove. What do these all mean? And again, there's another one here of the Mary's. I believe this is a cathedral. The Cathedral of St. Mary of the Assumption. Very fascinating, coming down here, and then you get the UFO with the Nervi's obsession with, or somewhat obsession right here. And this one, I thought those were chromosomes or something. Anyways, I might be going a bit crazy. But again, when I'm going a bit crazy, I put that speculation term there. So I'm speculating. That's me when I speculate. And that's why I try to avoid that. So this is a lot of rambling on. This is some snake-like architecture. And right at the mouth of that there, I believe I may have been one of the first people to found that. I couldn't find that anyone else online, so I might have been founder there. And this one, by itself, without mirroring, looks fascinating. Just fascinating. I don't know what that is. It is all for today. Hopefully you'll learn. Like always, you can download these exact notes in the link below, as well as viewing these notes on Steemit. Follow me at MES. And yeah, let me know what you think. Anyways, it's all for today. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for another Math Easy